Hi, I'm Julie Wilder, and I'm so excited to be able to share some of my knowledge about astrology, astronomy, and our cosmic cousins with you today. I first got interested in this subject when I read a book. I think the title was something about something about things your U.S. history teacher didn't teach you, or something like that. And in the book, it described how the calendar is basically a political calendar that has been shifted and moved around for political means. I think Julius Caesar stole a day from another month so that his month would have more, or something like that. There was a lot of information about how the calendar that we go by right now is basically a political calendar that has shifted us out of natural time. So our first real separation from nature has been this separation from natural time. We used to have the spring equinox be considered the beginning of the year, and go by a solar and some cultures lunar calendar. So the solar calendar is paying attention to the equinoxes and the solstices, which is the beginnings and ends of the seasons. And then we've got a lunar calendar that many cultures on Earth still go by, in fact. But the universal standard has become this Gregorian calendar, which is this grid here in the middle. My hope is that by introducing us to a circular form of time and putting the calendar back into the circle and the spiraling dynamic, it's actually a spiral, that's why I call it the spiral spectrum, because we keep going around and around and around and around, and the planets keep going around and around and around, and it all is creating an influence so that we can have this incredible experience that we have. If you really meditate on time, you might come to the conclusion, as I have, that time is actually a song. It's a song, and it has quite a bit of noise in it sometimes, and quite a bit of quietude at others. So this is my attempt, because I'm a visual learner, and let me see that book, my girl. My assistant, Maya Juniper Rose, is off camera right now, but she just handed me a calendar that has what astrologers and astronomers might be looking at when they are trying to figure out what's going on up in the heavens, and it looks like this, which is kind of confusing. It's a grid with tiny little numbers and times and da-da-da-da-da, and I don't know about you, but that is kind of hard for me to figure out. And so I decided to take this and put it into this so that we can more easily understand. I'm a visual learner, and I know time is not a line, and I wanted to create something that would invite us back into nature's time, this idea of the equinoxes and the solstices and the moon cycles, as well as introducing very, very quick introduction to chakra rhythms throughout the week. So in spring of 2012, I went to bed one night and I woke up on the spring equinox with this vision fully formed in my head about basically what turned out to be this calendar. So I sat down for like 2 or 3 days, just totally obsessed with knocking out a wireframe that would eventually become this, and I lost interest about 3 days in. I was worn out, and I put it away, and then finally when the winter solstice of 2012 was approaching, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to print that, I have to finish that calendar. So I worked for another 3 days, and it was actually printed for the very first time on December 21st of 2012. So the very first calendar was printed that morning, actually, and then was blessed in a water ceremony in the evening. And so I've been doing this calendar since then, and this is the fourth edition of the calendar. And let me just explain the elements to you so that you can understand. what we're doing is we're inviting rhythm back into our life. So if we can set up a rhythm for our week where we have a daily focus and a best practice for that day. Mondays is our root chakra, so how can we feel secure today? That would be, for me, making sure that my bills are paid and that I have food in the fridge. Some other people might want to make sure that their wood pile is all chopped and they've got plenty for the week. And as you go through, you can come with just a practice of focusing on that particular chakra and the needs of that chakra. Are you having any problems? Maybe on Fridays, taking a little mental inventory of what maybe you haven't expressed that week, what you're holding back. Maybe how can you best express some of the things that have remained unspoken. So this is just a way for us to invite in a awareness of and a focus on each of our chakras throughout the week, so that we're constantly taking inventory and we're constantly moving through and up our chakras, so that we can be in alignment with those and have a very good impact. The next thing that we can look at is, so this is the chakras is our weekly look. And then after that, this is our, basically a month, if you think about it. If the Gregorian calendar followed natural time, we would have 13 months, because the moon basically goes around 13 times in a solar year, a little bit, tiny bit off, but like a day or two. And the moon is something that holds sway over our emotions. So if you know about the full moon, any teacher or medical staff will tell you full moons are nuts. Obviously has a huge pull on our tides. The moon correlates with our feelings and our emotions, and I like to think of it as the conductor of our emotions. So sometimes the emotions are really big and expressive at the full moon, and sometimes they're very quiet and introspective at the new moon. So I have a little key to the moons up here in the phases, because there is a time for everything. The entire point of being able to understand the natural cycles is to know that there is a time to do certain things, and then there is a time to avoid other activity. Just like in winter, if you're in colder climates, not here in Florida, it's a time to stay indoors and rest and do your indoor arts and really reflect on the year. And have that quiet space, so that when spring comes, you're ready to burst forth and start, making babies and creating new things outdoors, and just really having an appreciation for the fact that spring is here. So that is our monthly, right? And then, of course, we also have the sun moving through our zodiac. Okay, and that is a way for us to understand what is a good time to be expressive. There's gosh, this one's kind of hard to explain when you only know about astrology from birthdays and things like that. That's a very, very basic form of astrology. What this is showing you is that there are certain times of the year where it's more beneficial to do different things, and we'll get into analysis at another point. This is just an overview of the calendar itself. And finally, we also have our cosmic cousins. This is our planets, and there's a little bit of a key to what each of the planets means. So Mars is traditionally associated with conflict, aggression. It's very action-oriented, very masculine planet. Jupiter is a planet that is considered a planet of spontaneity, of expansion, of luck. And Mercury is one that you hear a lot about. Mercury is travel, communications, mental activity, thoughts, different things like that. So this is these are just the keys so that you can begin to interpret and understand over time, and as you develop a relationship with each of these things, what is a good time to do things and what is a time to avoid. Now, I think of the planets as sentient beings, just like I think of Mother Earth as a sentient being. They have a consciousness, they have a personality, and when they come in the room, their presence is known, and if they're really far away, you don't feel them as much, but if they're up close, You feel them pretty strongly. And they, just like when you've got a particular character that enters into a party, and he can change the atmosphere of a party, so can the planets. And so everything has its purpose under the sun. And we are just trying to develop our personal relationships with each of these things so that we can become aware of what's going on and not buffeted around chaotically, like, what's going on? Once you start paying attention to these things, you'll notice that everybody's going through the same thing at the same time. And if you can understand what's going on, it's better to work with the energy. All right, so now when we get into it, if you look into the middle here, that's, the year 2016. Out here is the seasons, and it correlates with the solstices and the equinoxes. Then we have the zodiac key right here. Out here is the Gregorian calendar, and you'll notice that the days of the week are color-coded with the chakras. And also with each of the Gregorian calendars, you'll see the full moon, the new moon are marked in there, as well as if there is a solstice or an equinox, you'll see a little sun around the planet. Then you also have solar and lunar eclipses. They come in pairs, and I did not even know this until after I started doing the calendar, but the solar eclipses are opposite each other and the lunar eclipses are opposite each other. That was one of the things that I learned when I first did this calendar was, oh my goodness, they're opposite each other and they come in pairs and they're usually around the equinoxes. Okay, now I understand on a whole different level about astrology. It makes me be able to plan for those sacred times, to be able to really utilize these eclipses. They're very potent times, and you can get a lot of really good information when you're meditating, make plans for the coming years, state your desires, say your prayers, whatever it is that you do in your sacred world. So that is out there. And then I also have out here, these are the rings of all of our cosmic bodies out here. The moon is here with the full and the new moon. And then each of the planets is out here too. Here's Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and then the sun is on the outside. So these are all of the orbits of the planet, and it shows you when, like, let's look at Mercury right here. Mercury starts the year here's the icon for Aquarius. So Mercury starts in Aquarius, and then very shortly after going into the new year, we move into Capricorn. And it looks like it's going backwards because it's in retrograde as well. So this dotted line means that the planet is in retrograde. Retrograde is a time to review and remedy things from the past. Delays and misunderstandings may occur. It is actually a really great time to know that you've got some things coming up for review and you need to fix them. When Mercury goes retrograde, that's the planet of travel, communications, and thoughts. So anything electronic, planes, trains, automobiles, just expect delays. And once you know to expect delays, doesn't mean you should stop your activity. It just means that you should plan for extra time in what you're doing. Or maybe avoid this particular period for major purchases and things like that, because you might have to return it. So it's not a period that lasts too long. So anyway, this shows the planet as it goes through the zodiac so that you can understand, once you begin analyzing this, what is actually happening around.